3, 2, 1, and 0, and liftoff.
Hey everyone, this is Greg Lafferty, the Rocket Guy, and you're listening to the Rocket Guy Real Estate Investment Network. Come check us out at therocketguy.com. There's plenty of extra resources available to you to kind of guide you on your real estate investing education journey and kind of understand if this is for you or not, or if I'm just crazy, which is probably the case. But so come check us out there. And but today we're going to talk about a topic that not everybody gets really excited about, but I do. I get jazzed about it, so we're going to talk about it because it's my channel and we can do that. So, but business budgeting. Oh my gosh, we're going to write a budget. Yes, but we're going to talk about a fun way to kind of do it. So we want to dig in a little bit about business budgeting. There's a bunch of B's in there. Business budgeting, and kind of talk about that in the flavor of real estate investing. Okay, and everybody kind of has probably heard about a budget and what that means. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have a budget because that kind of constrains me and everything. No, it doesn't. It's very, very helpful, especially with real estate. So let's talk about the why, because I'm all about beginning with the why and keeping the end in mind and all that kind of stuff. What's your why? I love that from Simon Sinek. So let's talk about the why, because we focus so much here at the Rocket Guy on cash flow. We love cash flow properties, and cash flow in our properties is very, very important. Cash is king, and but you know, how are we going to generate cash flow if we're just out spending the money all over the place and not really managing it? And that's kind of where the budget comes into play. Okay, a budget, an expectation of kind of generally how much money we need to spend every month on the properties for maintenance and all that kind of stuff. All that is so important to make sure that we're achieving our cash flow targets. And we need to be intentional. We can't just live life just on by the coattails, right? We need to be intentional about our plan. Real estate investing is very, generally, it's very long-term and very intentional type investing. One thing a budgeting allows us to do is makes us, wow, I'm getting all tongue-tied today. It helps us make better decisions. Right? It provides us freedom to be able to have a guide into making decisions to say, I can do this or I cannot. Okay. Otherwise, people think of a budget as a ball and chain. I got to drag it around, but no, it actually helps us. It sits there and goes, no, I have the money to do this project. So yes, I'm going to do it. Or you know what? I really shouldn't right now. It gives us the freedom to decide and the freedom to make those choices, but a guide in order to do it. The problem is that real estate is expensive. Okay. This is not a $50 mutual fund investment, right? Real estate is expensive. The components of the property are expensive. Heating and air systems, roofs, parking lots, all that kind of stuff. All those are expensive. The turnover is expensive between tenants. When they leave, you might have to go and paint and replace the carpet, or if it's a commercial property, maybe even take down walls and do some tenant upfit, all that. So we want to make sure that we have that kind of in mind, and we're taking that into account as we're collecting rent every month, because you know what? The money has to come from somewhere. So we would rather that our tenants and our properties pay for these investments as opposed to us coming out of Hip National Bank and paying for it. And I've done it both. Okay. When I was out gunslinging in my young days and no money down and living on the edge and wondering if I was going to be able to pay the mortgage payments and all that kind of stuff. If a hot water heater went out, wow, that was expensive. Okay. And had to come out of my own Hip National Bank. Okay. But now I enjoy the freedom of the properties being able to cash flow and paying for themselves and buying the investment for me. And so if we kind of structure things a little better, then we can accomplish our mission for that. Okay. So that's kind of the why. Why do we budget? Because this junk's expensive, people, and we need to plan. We need to think ahead, and we need to take care of those kind of things. So let's talk about what should be in the budget. Do I need to budget for every single paper clip I need or things like that? No, we don't necessarily need to get to that level, but we can classify things a little bit, can't we? Could we break them down into big buckets and kind of start that way, kind of crawl, walk, run in our budgeting model? Absolutely, we can. Many years ago, before I kind of got my mind wrapped around this, and I was still kind of out there by myself, just kind of doing things, trying to figure things out. Every year, without fail, the tax bills come in, right? Every year. The government's real effective in that. They don't do everything well, but they send out bills very, very well. So the tax bill would come in, and man, there was thousands of dollars on the sheet that you had to find. Okay, thousands of dollars. You sit there and go, where am I going to get that money? I've been using the money all year. So the money was there, but it's not too hard to sit there and go, today's a good day to do this project, or maybe I should upgrade the cabinets this time for the turnover or something like that. And before you know it, you get to the end of the year and the tax bill comes in and you go, yeah, see, I don't have the money for that. So there are certain annual, what we call known expenses, right? Happen every year. Taxes, insurance, mortgage payments, right? These are kind of cash expenditures that have to happen every year. They're known, they're predictable. Tax rates might change, the amounts might change a little bit. If you're on a floating interest, which I hope you're not, if you're on a adjustable mortgage, that might change. But in general, we know those expenditures have to happen. Then those are kind of annual knowns, okay, that we need to plan for. There's another big bucket that I call kind of those long-term knowns. And that is, that kind of goes into capital improvements. Replacement reserves is what a lot of times the commercial guys, when they put on their suits and ties, they talk about their replacement reserves of the property. So if you ever lived in a condo association, homeowners association, they always have replacement reserves, okay? And here's the deal. Is that we have an expression around here that says depreciation is real, okay? There's some math and accounting and tax savings and everything with depreciation, but junk just falls apart, okay? If you spend $50,000 to pave a parking lot, it only has a certain amount of years of known life. And so you could divide that by the number of years of known life and just be prepared that with inflation and everything else, the next time you replace that parking lot might be $75,000. So you might need to kind of pace some of that money out. So the paver guy's not standing with his hand out and you're going, I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today, right? Pull out your empty pockets inside out. So you need to plan for those things, right? Roofs only really last, even though it's a 30-year roof, they might only last about 20 years. So if you need to kind of divide some of that stuff out, heating and air systems, 5 to 10 years, hot water heaters, 5 to 10 years, right? There's certain things, carpet really only lasts about 1 or 2 turnovers. So there's certain things out there that are kind of replacement reserves that you need to kind of plan for. These are the knowns, but they're long-term knowns. And then there's another bucket, a last bucket that I call kind of the known guesses. Okay. We know that they're going to happen. We just don't really know how much they are. It's hard to do math on them. This would be kind of maintenance, right? Break fix type stuff. And it might be turnover expense. We don't really know if we're going to have 5 turnovers this year or 2. Okay. We really don't know, but we know generally that if we do similar turnover activities, that generally a turnover costs us X. Okay. If we generally replace the flooring and repaint, it's going to cost this much. And then you might kind of buffer that one side or the other. And so every year you need to set aside some money for those activities. There's also the break fix type stuff. The water heater might last 9 years or it might only last 5. Okay. So we want to set aside some money every month for those activities that we know are going to happen. We just don't really know what they are. Okay. So 3 primary buckets that we really need to budget in. So that's the annual known expenses. Okay. Annual every year. Then there's the long-term knowns, right? That's the replacement reserves and that kind of stuff that's out there. We know it's going to happen if I hold the property for more than about 5 years or so. I've got some things I have to do there. And then there's kind of those known guesses. So some budget out there for maintenance and turnover and that kind of stuff. So 3 primary buckets. So do I have to get down to, I bought 5 pencils this year and that cost me 50 cents? No, I don't necessarily have to do that. Would it be nice to have kind of a budget for office supplies and things like that? Yes, it would. It would. But 3 primary buckets. 3 primary buckets. That's what we're looking for. So that's kind of what should be in the budget. So let's talk about how I generally approach my budget. Okay, I've spent the last 25 years honing the skills of what I call cash flow management, right? Dollars in, dollars out, trying to look ahead, think through, okay, how much money do I need? How much things going on, that kind of stuff. So I've spent 25 years doing this, and but it was probably only about 10 years or so ago that I really started getting disciplined in some of these areas. And one of the things that really helped me more recently is I picked up a book called Profit First, and this concept in a book by Mike Michalowicz. And I'm sorry, Mike, if I mispronounce your name, best I can. Okay. And this is kind of the pay yourself first model. It's a very straightforward, very simple kind of model, but it's basically, the thought is that you set aside money for yourself as the money comes in. You also set aside money for, and bucketize, if we're going to make it up a term, you're going to bucketize your money into certain things that you know are going to have happen. And then kind of what's left is what you can spend. Right. And so the concept is that everything grows to fit its container. Right. So if I have a 1,200 foot house, that's how 1,200 square foot house, that's how much stuff I have. If I move into a 3,000 square foot house, magically I grow. It's the same thing with project timing. It's the same thing with money. If I only have $500, that's all I can spend. So if I've set aside money in different buckets, that becomes my budget for that bucket. But I want to set aside money for myself first, and that's kind of where the profit first model comes in. Now, growing up, I listened to Larry Burkett and Dave Ramsey and all that kind of stuff. And Larry Burkett was he was a Christian financial advisor that was real big into the envelope system, and this is very similar to that. So you create different envelopes and for different activities in your household. So housing envelope, food, dining out, whatever the case may be, auto payments. And then when you get your check, you cash it, and then you fill up the envelopes with the cash. And then when the envelope is empty, you stop doing whatever that is for the month, right, until you get paid again. So if you go out to eat and you're going to take your girlfriend out to eat, you open up the envelope, there's no money, you go, maybe we're not going out to eat, right? Or you take money from another envelope just knowing that I only have so much money, so it just goes there. So this model and kind of a little bit of a twist to the profit first, it kind of goes hand in hand. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to set aside money to cover the knowns, okay? And then we're going to leave whatever money's left as our discretionary money. So you have your profit money, your known money, and then whatever's left is kind of what you can use to kind of play around with at the property. So, and there it is. That's all we got left, right? Because if we go out and we create envelopes, or what we do here is we create bank accounts, okay, for maybe profit, taxes and insurance, capital improvements, maintenance, and then every time the rent comes in, right, every month, we start moving the money around into those accounts. So money doesn't just stay in this one account that I don't know what it's for, but I just have a bunch of money. So I'm just going to go and do projects, and then the tax bill comes. Okay. We stop doing that. Now we set money aside for taxes and insurance, so that sits there. And then when the bill comes in, voila, the money's there. It's all planned out. I need to set aside so much a month because at the end of the year, I need this much money. Okay. And then we kind of true it up and take account to it. Say, am I saving it? Yes, I am. Okay. Periodically through the month. And that really helps out. And so, but we have to safeguard those accounts to say, hey, look, this is the maintenance account, so I can't use it for anything besides maintenance. That's our discipline, right? If I make a conscious decision to say, yeah, but this is really important, or, hey, my taxes went up and I didn't account for it through the year, so the money's got to come from somewhere, right? But generally, what it helps us do is it helps us kind of manage that cash flow, and then whatever's sitting in that profit account, guess where it goes? My pocket. Okay. That's what goes into the profit account. So that's kind of your mad money, right? That's eventually what you're going to live on as the property becomes profitable, and you kind of cross that threshold of wanting to retire and get cash flow and live on that property. It's kind of what you set aside in that profit account. Now, Greg, how much do I put in each account? Well, it depends. It absolutely depends. In the profit first model, he breaks up for a business, different percentages based on gross revenue or gross margin, gross profit. Okay. He breaks out different percentages. in the real estate game, it's a little tough because in every area, property tax rates are different, insurance rates are different, rent rates versus mortgage payments are different. So everything's a little different. So I'm not really going to tell you the percentage, but the concept is that you do the math and sit down and kind of lay out the whole budget. And this goes back to that analysis that we have to do when we buy the property, right? We sit there and say, okay, here's how much rent's going to come in, and here's how much I'm budgeting to pay for maintenance and vacancies and in insurance and taxes. Well, guess what? That becomes your model, right? So as I purchase the property and I close on it and I start to manage the property, then I look back over on my budget and go, okay, here's how much I budgeted when I did the analysis. So let's kind of true that up now that I've paid for the insurance. I know what the taxes are going to be now. Everything's kind of firm. And then I can sit down and kind of devise a plan that means, okay, well, if my taxes are this much a year, then I need to divide that by 12 and start setting that aside. So there's no real set percentage. It's just a matter of just kind of doing that internal discipline, figuring it out one time, and then taking a look at it maybe like once a year or so to make sure that nothing's really changed. Okay, because it will. Insurance will change rates. It might even be that it'll go down, right? Well, they'll sit there and say, well, we haven't had any claims on this property. We kind of understand the property a little bit better. Or maybe you put a policy in place initially. We do this sometimes. We put a policy in place initially just to close on the property because you need some insurance. And then over the years, you sit there and you start to shop it a little bit, right? And get a little bit better idea of what really those costs are. So, but keep all that in mind. So there's no real cut and dry, hard and fast kind of thing, but it allows us to actively manage as we go. And it's not a ball and chain kind of deal. It's not jail. It's not budget jail. It's freedom. I have a pile of money. I have plenty set aside to pay my taxes and insurance, right? I have a bucket of money. I can do capital improvements. So when I have to replace a roof, guess where I go? Let's go take a look at the capital improvements account, and that's what we're going to go take care of. So, so that's kind of how we do budgeting, right? Pretty simple. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. I'm Greg Lafferty, the Rocket Guy. I hope you got a little bit out of this and can kind of get your mind wrapped around how I manage my cash so I can get better cash flow out of my properties and help the tenants actually buy it instead of having to pull out of my own pocket. And come back and join us real soon. I hope you have a great day.